Welcome back, everyone. I am so excited with today's guest. I met John through COVID, really. We were both enrolled in a course in heroic public speaking, and COVID hit, and we became a part of the referable 44. And he is an amazing leader, amazing speaker. And I just want you to hear from John today, and John Giganti, and we'll talk to him and find out a little bit more about him and his perspective on the next generation of leader. So welcome, John.
Hi, Paula. Hi,
How
everybody.
are you today? Both in Columbus.
I know, right down the street, right? We should be together.
That's right. We should have. Oh my gosh, I didn't
Next
even
time.
think about that. I will tell you real quick. This is what I'm thinking about in Columbus, if you can hear it. Hold on.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm looking out my window now. I mean, it's I feel like never ending, right?
It's raining cats and dogs, isn't it?
You know, I took my daughter to a soccer game Saturday.
Yeah.
Her friend and her friend's dad, we both coached their soccer game together, 8 years old. So the U.S. women's team was playing in Columbus. So we figured perfect. About a month ago, I got the email, buy tickets. And I'm thinking it's going to be fantastic weather, maybe like 62, 65. It's April. It's snowing. We're driving down the game. It's like snowing sideways. It was, I don't know, 38 degrees or something, like just Ohio.
Right? Just in Ohio. You know, you never can tell. I think it snows in June sometimes, right?
I know.
Well, welcome. And just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. First of all, it's great to be with you. Yeah, I'm John Giganti. I live in Columbus, born and raised in Cleveland. I did a few years in Chicago, and I'm a dad first. I've got 3 kiddos and a beautiful wife, Michelle. And I work for a software company, CCC Intelligence Solutions. So I've been in the sales world. I lead a sales team, and I've been in the sales world for many, many years, 22 years with the same company, believe it or not. Which I know is a rarity these days, right?
You know, I come from sales as well, and
yeah.
22 years is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's and I feel like it's flown by for sure, but it's been a great ride. A lot of great friends, you know, you make over the course of time, both internally and client wise. So yeah, so fascinated with leadership. I cut my teeth in the sports world. I played soccer and a bunch of other sports growing up, and ended up settling on soccer and played college ball. And so the whole leadership topic is really fascinating to me, and I love all the work you're doing. Congratulations on all the success. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that's one thing I found out as I was growing in the sales, right? You know, individual contributors who become managers are not always the best managers if they're high potential individual contributors. We know that, right?
Yeah.
But as I was growing and really finding out my leadership language, it's interesting how much I had passion for educating others.
Yeah.
That's really the leadership part of me. So that's why we're doing this here.
Did you mind me asking you a question on that?
No.
I say that because my parents were both teachers. I married a teacher. My wife was a school teacher, and she stays at home now with our kiddos. But similar for me, I view myself from a leadership perspective as a teacher more than anything, and a student, by the way. I think that's so I'm just curious, how did you come about that? That's pretty cool.
It's interesting. And that's really the whole premise of the book, Side B, is because when I was growing up, and I think I've talked about this and shared this a little bit, I am dyslexic.
Okay.
And when I was in 7th, 8th grade, we really noticed the dyslexia, the anxiety with test taking, and all the hearing components. But there wasn't anything that we could do back then, right? Now I'm showing my age. I'm 58. So think of 7th and 8th grade. Dyslexia was just a learning disorder.
Sure.
So the way that I would learn is through music. But as I got into college and out and into the workforce, music kind of got put on the back burner for me. And it wasn't until I was at the Struts concert in Atlanta that I noticed the musicians and the fans interacting with each other and really feeding off of each other. And I thought, that's what leadership should be about, is that engagement and feeding off of each other. And wouldn't it be great if leaders could generate that kind of energy from their teams? So that was my one aha moment.
That's
The
cool.
second was from Dwayne Cummings. He told me to flip the organization chart. You don't work for your boss, you work for your people.
Yes, that's so good, so important.
Yeah. So that's really when I decided that, we needed to do something about this, because middle managers, emerging leaders, high potential leaders, whatever we want to call them right now, are not getting the professional development, right?
Yeah.
There is so much difference, and I'd love to get your viewpoint on this. There's so many differences in defining what an emerging leader and a high potential leader is.
Yeah, gosh, so much there. And thanks for sharing about the dyslexia. I think that's crucial. And that's a whole nother topic for another day, just on mental health. And I don't like to refer to them as disabilities, right? They're things that you just have to deal with and
overcome.
Yep. And I've had my own, I've got in my family, right? So I applaud you for that. And I think that's really cool to tie in with, and I think you said you were a swimmer too. And
yes, very much a swimmer.
This whole, and being a soccer player, this whole concept, I'm sure you're familiar with flow state, and this Mihai Csikszentmihalyi was I don't know if he was the originator of it, but did a lot of research, I think in the 70s. And I think he actually just passed away in the last couple of years, but amazing research on this, this concept of time standing still.
Yeah.
And I think in sports, we get in this flow state much easier. It's where basically challenge meets skill. So when you're swimming, your time stands still and you're almost not thinking. Probably help your dyslexia if you can get to that point in whether school or whatever. And I felt the same thing in soccer, where time stood still and sometimes I just couldn't miss. And then there were times, and I went through some adversity on the soccer field where I knew, looking back, I know now, I was in my own head. I had so much other baggage and interference going on. And I think the same thing happens in business and in leadership. And I think it's often overlooked, this idea of what's holding you back, what's the interference. And I think, I can tell you for my team, and I was very fortunate that I've got some amazing mentors and coaches and people that have helped me along my journey. But one of my good buddies is the Sean Vidal, CFO of Mettler Toledo here in town, a company based in Switzerland, but they have a big office in Columbus. But I said, Sean, what's the one thing you would do, like going into leadership for the first time? So I was about 5 years ago when I first started leading my first sales team. And he said, love your people. Just show them you care. I mean, it was that filter, right? And every time I see him, I bring it up all the time when I talk to him, and he's a fantastic leader, but it's such a simple filter. It's really hard to execute though. And this idea of, and that's what I love what you're doing with Side B, and you can see in my background, but be still. My wife did our basement and did all this, but I love talking about it because I struggle with that. And for me, from a leadership perspective, I hope if you were talking to my team, they would say John's present when he's with us and he listens. And, sometimes it's a 5-minute conversation. I was on with one of my reps Friday for an hour and 45 minutes on a Teams call. And it was probably, till, I don't know, 5:45 at night. And I don't say that to brag or anything. It's just, we talked a little bit. We talked a little personal. It's just, and that's not always the case, but I think a lot of times we're too transactional, and it's fast paced, right? We're all trying to get stuff done. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just sometimes we got to slow down, and it's.
I love that you say we're too transactional, because I believe that data. While data was fantastic at the beginning, getting data, now there is so much data, so much out on the internet, so much information out there. that we tend to use data and rely on data rather than just communicating with our people. And that is what the side B is, and that authentic leadership legacy that you want to leave. And I love that because we are too transactional. I want to tell leaders in the C suites to ditch the data for 3 minutes, turn on a song, and go out and talk to your people.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's again slowing down, right? And gosh, the music piece to that is essential. I mean, it puts us in a state of mind for sure. Yeah, I think, and it's hard because I think as a salesperson, you're inherently a go-getter, right? You have to be.
Yeah.
Number to hit, and that's not bad. Or if you're an athlete, same thing. You're constantly training, trying to compete and win. But gosh, I wish I knew this many years ago. I didn't. It takes time to learn, right, and figure it out. But I think, this ability to just the best salespeople are the best listeners, frankly, right? And by the way, we're all in sales. We're all in leadership too. Even our kids. I mean, everybody leads.
Everybody. And you know what was even fascinating, and I'll share this story with you. I haven't shared this one yet, but I had a procedure done this weekend or this week. And so I was tied up in bed a little bit and just resting and relaxing. And I get an email, and you know me, I'm a swimmer. And my coach from that time sent me a picture of him and myself and said, "I love what you're doing." Now you talk about leadership, and you talk about memories, and you talk about motivation. That right there is just somebody staying in touch with the people that they've coached or that they've led. And I think that's our responsibility, even as leaders, is to do our very best for our people.
Yeah. And wow, look how powerful that is. It was a text message.
It was an email because he got my email off of my LinkedIn.
So awesome. But even easier today to send a text message to someone. It's so simple to provide a little bit of encouragement and just to say, "Hey, I was thinking about you. I hope you're having a great day." Or I love if I read something that's cool or inspirational, passing it on to others. It's amazing how far that goes. And I think it's a differentiator. I think a lot of people are, again, so busy and in reaction mode for most of the day. It's hard to do stuff like that. And I take it a whole nother level. I need to do this more, but I'll write handwritten notes at times to people. And that's a game changer today, right?
Handwritten notes are the best form of compliments that you can get at this point.
Right.
And, interestingly enough, that's what Jack Welch used to do for his employees. When the company was small, he would literally do all of their reviews and then handwrite them a note.
Wow. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Our leadership team, the gentleman that runs our division, Barrett Callahan, will send we have a sales kickoff meeting every year in January.
Yeah.
He sends a handwritten note to every single person. That's unbelievable. I mean, we're talking like 250 people. You know how much time that takes to do? And
it's in his writing, right?
It's not
in somebody else's writing, and he signs it.
Yep. And it takes time to do, but it goes such a long way.
Mm-hmm. So if I ask you that question now, since you are in a leadership role and you're looking at your team now, what would you say the difference is in that next generation leaders, besides us getting to know our people? But what would be the difference between an emerging leader and a high potential leader for you?
Gosh, I almost think of them congruent.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody's high potential, first of all, right? Everybody's got a greatness inside of them. I saw on your website, you had your strengths finder, and, I love it. That's the first test I recommend to everybody. Take the strengths finder because it tells you what you're great at. So that being said, look, I mean, I said it earlier. I would argue that I almost think of high potential as someone that's maybe a little bit younger and up and coming, and emerging as someone that's maybe at a transformational stage thinking about going into formal leadership. That's what comes to mind. I don't know if that's,
Yeah.
that's
You
accurate at
know,
all.
I
Yeah,
think it's what you talked about at the very beginning, John, and that is the staying and being a student of your or student of your career, a student of your job function, a student of where you want to be,
sure.
right? And that's where I look at emerging leaders because you're right. We all have abilities, we all have high potential, but the leaders before us are to help create, get to unfold that for us
Yeah,
and not make it an echo chamber of what their potentials are, right?
sure.
But let them be unique in their voice. Looks like we've got a few comments here. Thank you. And John are so correct. A simple engagement works wonders from Michelle Hollis. So that's phenomenal. And Michelle Baker is the personal touch means so much. And you said
Yeah.
you were just going into your first time leadership about what you said about 5, 6 years ago
First time in corporate leadership. Yeah,
in
about 5 years
corporate
ago.
leadership,
Correct.
right? We're always leaders as we grow up, right?
Yep. Yep.
Um, how how did you feel that made you? Did it make you different? Are you seeing things that you weren't aware of as an individual contributor? And how do you
Yeah.
go about protecting your team from some of those conversations?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's much different from I think about I when I was a sales rep, I had a few accounts and my job was to obviously serve them and then grow the business. So you build these really deep relationships. I call them like layer 3 where you're just not getting to know somebody on the surface, and not layer 2. It's like really personal and you know their families, and that's the goal. That's how we run the business. So I went from 6 accounts, let's call it, to now I have about 45 under my span of control, and 5 sales reps. So the depth of those relationships isn't as deep. Although, look, it's the job to make sure you're staying in touch and building the best relationship you can. But my point in all this is to say it comes down to trust. I trust my team to build those relationships, and then trust between myself and my team is crucial. So the ability to, know we're big on no surprises. So if there's negative news or something, some type of struggle, let's talk through it. The ability to have hard conversations comes from trust, right, and respect. It's not all sunshine and roses all the time,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think the trust too enables those tough conversations. But I think it's the job of a leader ultimately, to me, is to encourage and empower those two together and really build belief.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that potential piece. Most people are in a job for a reason and have potential. That's why you hire them. How do you build belief in that person to close the gap on their potential? That's what it comes down to. Now, can you really reach your potential 100%? I mean, that's debatable, but you can get pretty darn close, right? That's what we're all after. And so you see so many people. I'm not immune to this, where you lack confidence or you have a self-limiting belief, and that's why I surround myself with people that inspire, encourage, challenge me. That, hey, I'm struggling with this, and they'll say, look, man, here's what I see in you. Go for it, whatever that may be. So yeah, that trust and that belief in surrounding yourself, I think, is crucial.
Yeah. I I love that, that's a big point right now. Those who you surround yourself with
Yeah,
are are really your support team and what holds you up. And then for you to think about how you do that for your employees, right? And your teams. And because
yeah,
ultimately we talk about side A and side B, and we have resume building skills and all of those things that we need that our corporations are teaching us right now, but we're not being educated on those side B potential, those high potential emotional based skills. And And I do talk about warmth and empathy, vulnerability, and a few of those, but mostly I'm looking at a high potential emotional based skill such as curiosity.
Mm,
And if I were to take the test on you, I would think you would come out as the drummer, being very curious. And
hmm.
I'd love to try that with you. But I think it's curiosity and trustworthiness and courage and
Yeah,
kindness and sincerity. Those are things that are naturally within us that we need to bring out to show our teams that it's okay to lead the way that is unique to you.
yeah. Well, and
Get
that
good results.
the curiosity thing is crucial because look, I think we're wired to be selfish. It's just this fight or flight brain that we have, and it's just how we're wired. So if you can slow down and actually get curious about someone else, whether it's team, client, family, spouse, whatever, whoever it is, it's magic, right? Just the ability, again, I can't say enough. I keep saying it, but slow down. Listen, we have two ears and one mouth for a reason. It's a cliche and it's so stupid, but it's like a sales cliche, but it's true. Like, shut up and listen. Let someone talk. And the best advice I ever got from a coach I had said, use the phrase, tell me more. So when
I
you're in a
like
conversation, someone's talking, hey, tell me more. And
I
they'll just keep
love
going.
that because there is a difference between hearing and listening, right?
Absolutely. Oh my
And
God.
I
Yes.
think with hearing, we go in with our own agenda to defend our own ideas, and we go in ready to ready to uh, say what we want to say. Whereas listening, we actually listen and let the conversation unfold the way it's going to unfold.
Yeah. No doubt. It's so hard. Even as you're talking, I'm thinking about what I'm going to say next, right? And how I'm going to respond. And it's just so, it's so hard. And the pause, as you know from speaking, right? The pause is so important for a speaker. And when you're in there and practicing and doing it, it feels like forever.
Yeah.
And then it's really not that long, but it's such a big effect to pause and let someone think and talk. And I mean, it's the ultimate game changer. I love that you brought up curiosity, and you said empathy too earlier, which I I put those together for sure. This ability to think from the other person's perspective, and curiosity comes with that. Absolutely.
And that's not a skill that everybody has,
No.
right? And so, or a trait that everybody has, because we all grow up differently in different environments and in different economical situations. That these are things that can be educated on, can be taught,
Yeah.
can be learned.
That's what I was going to say. It can be taught. You can grow your ability to have more empathy. Absolutely.
Mhm.
This day and age, it's so important. I mean, I've got a sales rep who has grown so much through the years, somewhat of a selfish bend a few years ago, and that's the biggest thing we worked on: emotional intelligence. How can you be
Yeah.
more empathetic? Think of the other person's perspective, and he's completely transformed. He's doing a fantastic job, and is in a position to potentially lead at some point too, which is really cool.
That is exactly your job. And that's
Yep.
exactly what you are intended to do. And when I say flip that org chart and putting your customers first, and putting your customers at the top of the org chart with your customer facing employees, and then with the CEO at the bottom, it's really leading up from there, right?
Servant leadership, right?
Ah, yeah, yeah.
That's
Michelle
it.
Baker says to listen is to be silent. These words are anagrams for a reason.
I love that. I've never seen that before. That's amazing. I'm going to steal that.
Bravo. I
That's
love
so cool.
that. That
Mm,
Michelle, that needs to go in your book. Uh,
right?
yeah,
Absolutely. That could be its own book right there.
that's right. So
Thanks, Michelle.
if you could give one piece of advice to any, potential emerging leader on developing themselves, I know you said to take
Yeah.
the strength finders.
Yeah.
There are so many assessments and things out there on how would what would be one thing that you would suggest on professional development for them?
Yeah, I would say lean into your authentic self. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. If you're struggling with something, it's okay to seek help. It's okay to talk about it with your team. I mean, I think in this day and age, it's very easy to we live in this world of never let them see your downside. It's this highlight reel on social media, and not that social media is bad. It's amazing for connections and whatnot, but we got to be careful with it. So I think a lot of leaders don't like to be vulnerable, and I think it's being able to be human, right? We're human beings, not human doings, is the saying. I mean, it's
Oh, I
so
like that too. Human
yeah,
beings, human doings.
yeah. So I think for me, I've I've really been intentional with my team, for example, I mean, COVID has been hard for many people. So my son deals with some struggles at school. So staying home was a struggle. He's a social kid, and there were issues. There were times I had to get off of calls like this because he was having behavioral issues.
Mhm.
And he's an amazing kid. He's such a sweet kid. But for me to be able to share that with my team and say, look, I mean, I had a couple times where I said, guys, I got to get off the call here and go take care of my family. And I think don't hide from it. We try with him. He's a beautiful kid. He's going to do amazing things in his life. So the ability, and again, I talked to a whole nother topic, mental health, but I think we gotta talk about it more as leaders, because it's especially right now, people are hurting. It's been hard, and it's okay to not be okay.
I would love to have you back on to talk about mental health because I feel that that is so important. It is, for example, being a woman sales leader in a male dominated environment was very challenging. I felt like I had to hold back a lot
Yeah,
of stuff and put on a persona of this person that I really wasn't, that I began to not recognize myself in the mirror,
wow,
right?
sure, that's not
So
good.
I think that mental health is so darn important. And I would love to have you back on to talk about that and
Yeah,
maybe in the fall.
love it anytime. I'm passionate about it, and happy to. That'd be great.
Well, John, we're coming up on 2:30. I would like for you to let people know where they can get in touch with you or how they find you,
Yeah,
and maybe talk about a little bit of your speaking engagements that you do.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. So my website is johngiganti.com. It's just JONGIGANTI.com. And so I write there. I have a podcast. It's called With Intention, that I interview a lot of thought leaders on a lot of the stuff we talked about, whether it's business, sports, a lot of folks. I do some speaking as well to companies and sports teams, and just passionate about this idea of being more intentional. I think we hear the saying, pay attention, all the time. We've heard it from teachers, and I think it's more about paying intention. More of this, the heart focus versus the head focus. If you can combine the two, you need both, but I think we need more of that heart focus. So yeah, feel free to subscribe, and you'll get, anytime I post something or have a new podcast, it'll be sent out.
Great. Well, hang with me for just a moment, and I appreciate having you on the show, and we'll catch up here in just a second, okay?
Thanks, everybody. Good to be with you.
Thank you, everybody. It was so great to have you as a part of the show, and we'll see you next week.